Hi, I'm Amanda LaPera, author of Losing Dad, Paranoid Schizophrenia, A Family Search for Hope. And this tells the story of my father, who developed a severe mental illness at the age of 53. And it shows how mental illness impacts an entire family, the spouse, the children, the parents, as well as his co-workers and so forth. My father developed an unusual case of paranoid schizophrenia with a late onset of 53. Typically, mental illness shows up when somebody's in their teens or their early 20s, so it was unusual for him with no prior symptoms to develop it. Laura's Law is assisted outpatient treatment, and Laura's Law came about after Laura Wilcox. She was a young college student, and she was working in Nevada County. And a man came in who had a severe mental illness that was not currently being treated. And unfortunately, he shot and killed Laura as well as some other individuals. His family knew he was sick. His family had tried to get him help, but he was currently not accepting treatment because there's a condition called anosognosia, which I didn't know anything about until I wrote this book. Anosognosia is different from denial, from being stubborn. We used to think my dad was just saying, I'm not going to get help because we thought he didn't want to accept that he needed it, that he need to accept that he needed medication. But it's actually a biological condition where he's unable to see that he's ill. So if I were to say to you, you have this disease and you don't believe you have it, and then I said, I want you to take medication for it, you probably wouldn't take it, and neither would I. Which is why up to 50% of people with the most severe mental illness, paranoid schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, the most extreme cases, why many of them don't take medication and end up on the streets or end up in prison or end up victimized by other people because they're unable to see their illness, not because they're denying that they're ill. So Laura's Law is court-mandated treatment, and it works. In Nevada County, it works. There have been independent studies that show Kendra's Law in New York has saved, I believe in Nevada County, for every dollar spent, they've saved about $1.80, not to mention the lives of those involved. Our family story is unique because while most mental illness shows up when someone's in their teens or early 20s, our father developed severe mental illness at the age of 53. He went in for a cancer treatment, and when he came out of the hospital, he was a different man. He developed delusions, auditory, visual hallucinations, and it quickly turned into paranoid schizophrenia. So this tells the story of how that impacts a family when it comes on so late in someone's life. I wrote Losing Dad after many people had prompted me to write a book about our family's experience. I never intended to make a story out of it. And in fact, I'm a teacher during the day. I teach English. And my students here and there would hear a little bit of the story, and they urged me, said, please, you have to write a story about this. This is incredible. Now, to me, I was in the middle of living this. This was a part of my everyday life. And I suppose when you see it every day, it doesn't feel as unusual as it seems from the outside. So I went about writing the book. It took several years. I interviewed over 12 people for this book, every living relative he had, pretty much, my father. And that was a difficult part of the book, is trying to put together everyone's story. I wanted it to be as accurate as possible because it is nonfiction. So I compiled emails and letters and interviews and worked out the timeline, reorganized and so forth, wrote, edited. It altogether took over 5 years to write. My involvement with NAMI came about as a result of writing this book. After I had written the book, I became angry. I became angry at what happened to my father and the fact that he's now homeless, and I thought, there has to be a better way. There could have been a reason why. Why is he homeless? Couldn't he have gotten help? Is there any way he could have gotten help? And so I thought, how would I go about doing that? I said, well, if he had had somebody that perhaps would come to the house, or he was monitored on medication, kept him out of the mental hospitals where he's constantly cycling through there, like many people. And in my research, I found that there was a law in the books called Laura's Law in California, which is modeled after Kendra's Law in New York. Laura's Law was not around when my father became ill. He first developed in 1996 and he left the country in 99. Well, in researching about Laura's Law, I found out about an organization called the Treatment Advocacy Center, and they advocate for rights of the mentally ill, how to get them treatment. And there's something called assisted outpatient treatment, which is helping a person with severe mental illness get treatment in the community without having to go into the mental hospital or ending up in prison or, like my father, homeless. I never intended to become an advocate, but when I see something that doesn't seem right or fair, I speak out. And I read an article in the LA Times. I wrote a letter to the editor there. And within a week, I was contacted by some people who asked me to come to their house and meet with them. One thing led to another thing, and next thing I know, I'm attending a family-to-family class with NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, with Orange County affiliate. I learned a lot. I thought I knew a lot about mental illness, and I did not know quite so much until I went to that class. After the class, I continued working on the book, and then I ended up writing some other letters, and next thing I know, I was approached by several people asking me if I'd be interested in joining the board of directors in NAMI. And I said I was a little hesitant. I have a lot going on with my family and work and the book. And they said, well, think of it this way. You're going to do what you're already doing, except this time you'll have business cards. And because what had been happening is I had been speaking out at the board of directors. I'd been speaking out in my community at events for the rights of those who have a severe mental illness and for their right to treatment. Because frankly, a lot of people misunderstand Laura's Law and they feel like it's going to endanger somebody's personal liberties or freedoms. And I would much rather be brought into assisted outpatient treatment than to end up homeless like my father should I develop something similar to what he has. I think Losing Dad would appeal to a wide variety of readers. People who have a family member who have severe mental illness can read this book and understand they're not alone in their experience and learn from the mistakes and what our family has gone through. So hopefully they don't have to deal with the same level of tragedy as our family has dealt with. On the other hand, there are families that don't know anything about mental illness. There are people only hear what they hear in the media about these horrible mass tragedies and murders, which is honestly, the people who have a severe mental illness are more apt to be the ones who are victims of violence as opposed to perpetrators of violence. And I've heard some readers who have no experience with mental illness have come back to me and say, I can't look at homeless people the same way. I used to think they were there because, well, frankly, the same reason that I thought they were there, that you're not doing your job, you're not going to school, you're not studying, you're doing drugs, and that's why you're homeless. And that's not true. Many of the homeless people have a severe mental illness. So I believe people that don't truly understand what mental illness is or how it impacts a family would definitely benefit from reading this book and gain a greater understanding of not only one person's experience, but the entire family. And everyone in my family experienced it in a different way and dealt with it in a different way. So I think there's something to be gained from many people through this book. In the introduction by Dr. Javier Amador, you can learn more about what anosognosia is and the biological background behind that. In the afterword, there is a discussion on the current laws in California and beyond, which affect many other states, the United States. It talks about some of the problems that led us to where we are now. It discusses HIPAA laws and where we need to go from here. There's also interviews from each of the family members and a discussion questions at the end to help guide reading groups, because I've been told that there are groups of readers that would like to study this book too. Okay, I'm going to read an excerpt from the story Losing Dad, give you a good overview of what the story's about. And this is the introduction. Like a master computer, the brain controls everything. But when it malfunctions, there is no system reset, no disk recovery, no memory restore. Joseph graduated from college in Illinois, bought a house in California, and raised a family in the suburbs. By all accounts, his life seemed normal. And it was, until he got the news: cancer. After a successful operation with a good prognosis, a routine procedure went awry. Doctors rushed him into emergency surgery and, for the second time in a week, put him under general anesthesia. When he was released, everything changed. Joseph descended into psychosis, extreme paranoia, and grandiose delusions. Within a couple of years, he did the unthinkable. He embarked on a trip involving 4 continents, 30 countries, and 13 wives. Joseph gave up everything along the way, his career, his finances, and his family. He was purportedly arrested in Israel, preached to a mafioso in Italy, and hailed as a prophet in Africa. Penniless, he returned to America, where he had run-ins with drug dealers and prostitutes. This true story follows one man's bizarre journey through mental illness. He is not a faceless stranger living on the streets. He is my father. Losing Dad recently became a finalist for the Benjamin Franklin Book Award under the category of psychology. It is a silver award winner and a finalist, and it may possibly have won gold. We won't know yet until the end of May as we attend the award ceremony in New York City. But it's been a very exciting recognition for this book. A lot of hard work and heart have gone into the making of this book, and it feels nice to have it recognized by others as being a worthy achievement.